Welcome back to the Fighting Irish Faithful Show, everyone. This is Joe. Oh my goodness. Episode 15 already, and we're only 5 games in so far this season. Can't believe that we're here. Going into returning back home, the Irish returning back home against the Stanford Cardinal. This is week 1 of 2 in a row where we will be playing a color. We have the Cardinal this week, and then the Orange next week. We'll probably make some annoying orange references next week, but for now we're playing Stanford, and they're kind of shitty right now, but more to come on that. This is the Fighting Irish Faithful Show. I am Joe at faithful_Irish. Obviously, if you're listening to this on the podcast version, you've already found me, so why do I even bother plugging it? And we do go live Tuesday and after post games. Now, I don't know, this Saturday is the doc's birthday, so I don't know. Priorities will go to her over you guys. Yes, I know I have one job, but I have to be a husband and then a dad, and then you guys are like third on the list. Well, okay, actually, Jesus is up there somewhere too. So, okay, let's go to our first person. There's a new person that jumped on very early. James, if you would like to join us and speak, we've invited you to speak. James McGray, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. James, you've been invited to speak. Go ahead and hit accept or hit the pink button on the lower left-hand corner if you so wish to speak. If not, we'll jump to someone else. Hello, James.
How's it going?
Hey, welcome to the show. Nice to have you.
Oh, nice to be here. Go Irish.
That's right. Go Irish. How are you feeling after the Shamrock Series? Did you just get back from Vegas, on Sunday night and you're still hungover, or?
Oh, I wish I was in Vegas, and I wish I was hungover watching us not score enough points. I mean, I just, you have all the time of possession, all the yards, and you only win by 8 points. It's kind of nerve wracking, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that was kind of the theme of the post game show, where we were, I don't want to say wailing and gnashing of teeth, but there was certainly some concern over the lack thereof, offensive production, and I will put kind of a rosy, obviously we won. But I have some stuff I'll talk about later tonight about, why things aren't as dire as we think. But you're 100% right. We did cover the spread. We were favored by 3.5 points, which is good. But I mean, let's just jump to the biggest thing I always talk about: yards per point. A yards per point of 17.7 is not going to get it done. And BYU actually was better at 14, and this is 2 weeks in a row where the opponent had a better yards per point over Notre Dame. Now, obviously, last week we were much more stellar, putting up 45 points, but it's an efficiency thing.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, the secondary is giving up some big plays, which drives me nuts. When you have a lead, they just shut them down, and especially North Carolina, that game was not that close. You look a lot better if, they only scored 20 points or what have you. And that, maybe we're ranked. Not that ranked means anything. I mean, obviously, North Carolina's in front of us, even though we beat them.
I mean, the real ranking doesn't come out until, I don't know, we play Boston College or Navy or something, right? Way later than, when past Halloween, obviously.
How bad is Boston College this year? I thought they'd be good, or not good, relative term for Boston College, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, define good in terms of Boston College. I'm not. I haven't really followed them too much, but they're 2-4, so they're struggling. They're not nearly as dire as Stanford is, right? But they lost to Rutgers. Their 2 wins are over Maine, and then they squeaked out a win over Louisville. But, they just got pounded by Clemson. They lost to Florida State. Now, Florida State's on the up and up, so that's good. But they also lost at Virginia Tech. And I mean, Virginia Tech
is awful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're not so good right now either. So, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't like Boston College, so I'm totally fine with Notre Dame dominating and peeing on them. So,
well, as much as P play seems like something we want to do with Boston College, I'd still rather have them a better record when we play them, so it looks better.
Yeah, there is something
just like
to
Stanford
say about
being
that.
Terrible.
I mean, well, the thing with Stanford is, I mean, there's some element, and say what you want to say about the Stanford rivalry, right? I mean, do I like playing them? Sure, but if there was like I'd rather get rid of the Stanford game over getting rid of the Navy game. And actually, my opinion of getting rid of Navy isn't really getting rid of Navy. It's kind of more just like, don't play them every year. Play them once every 3 years, and then just once every year play one of the service academies, like go Navy, Air Force, Army, or some sort of rotation there, and then you swap home and home, every 6 years, right, with said team. I mean, it'll most likely be in a neutral site, like we're playing
Navy in Ireland every 3 years.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm down with that, and then our boy Stevie D Irish, who's a huge loyal fan of the show. If anyone didn't catch that, Stevie D Irish lives in Ireland, friend of the show, and after the North Carolina game, jumped on because it was late for him, not as late for us East Coast people. And of course our brethren out west. But yeah, so if we played Navy in Ireland every 3 years, Stevie D Irish would be very happy with that. But anyway, getting back to this BYU game, so you were left unsatisfied is the impression I'm getting.
Well, I don't want to say unsatisfied because I couldn't believe we were actually favored to win.
You have higher expectations.
But once you see how you dominated them, you're like, okay, we should be up, 35-13 or whatever instead of, 28-20. I think was a final score. Going into the game, I'm like, they're ranked, we're not. They beat Baylor. We beat UNC. Similar teams, talent-wise, I think. And I thought they should have been favored. But once the game started, I'm like, okay, we're dominating. We should win this game by a couple scores,
Yeah, I agree. And, it's kind of interesting, and I don't want to, I'm going to open this can now, is Notre Dame is still unranked in the AP and the Coaches Bowl. Now, they did get, quote unquote, some votes. But, some team I've never heard of is sitting at 25, I think.
You leave James Madison alone. They are rising stars.
But who are they? I don't know who they are.
It's some team ESPN decided to put on television. I think the NFL Network had one of their games.
I mean, the AP is a bunch of beat writer people, and I don't want to be disrespectful to our reporters, but like my point is, like, I've never heard of this team, and who have they played? I personally go with Sagarin. We'll just jump ahead to that. Sagarin is all math, right? And Notre Dame is ranked 14th in Sagarin. Now, I don't give too much credit to ESPN and some of their shenanigans, as you kind of alluded there earlier. Mm-hmm. But I think I was kind of just like curious about what ESPN's FPI or what are they, power index or fake poll index, whatever it's called. Yeah. They had Notre Dame in the teens as well. And they're predicting, and there's actually a slight chance that Notre Dame makes the playoffs per that, which I think is bogus. I don't think there's any way Notre Dame makes the playoffs, but there'd have to be like absolute chaos where Mississippi beats Alabama or crazy shit like that happens. But my point is, like, I don't really pay attention to all the polls, and a lot of people seemed really bent out of shape on Sunday or Monday when those were released. And I'm just like, look, it doesn't really matter because none of those polls really matter. And even Sagarin doesn't really matter because the one that does matter is the playoff committee's one, right? But really, like, Notre Dame should not even be in a playoff this year. There's no way.
You can't be in the playoff after you lose to Marshall.
Well, and there's no chance of success, when we're the 103rd ranked team in college football right now in total touchdowns, so, and that's not our worst stat. There's worse ones. Actually, turnover margin is awful. We're ranked 104th. That's probably our worst stat for our team, which is not good. But regardless, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be negative about the ranking thing, and I also, I don't put stock in it. I didn't even start looking and writing down what the rankings were until we played North Carolina, because the first 3 games, it's like, look, the first quarter of the season's got to go by, kind of reshuffle the deck here if we want to make another Vegas reference, and then from there, we just go ahead and bring Notre Dame back up online by the time you hit the 4th game of the year. So that's kind of my opinion. But James, you put yourself on mute. Go ahead and unmute yourself here. Pink button. Yeah, I mean, what's your take of this? Like are the polls stupid, or should we not even pay attention to it, or is it just noise?
The polls are stupid. I mean, it's fun to debate, when you're talking to your friends who are, SEC fans or whatever, and it's really all it's for is
you have
to get
SEC
more college football
friends?
Chatter. Cousins is in Georgia.
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, he's riding a wave of a championship, Okay, that's fair.
He's been the worst person in the world.
Oh no, he's not even like humble dignity, whatever. He's he's spiking the football kind of guy.
Oh yeah, and he lives in Athens, Georgia, so it's just he went to college there and never left. He's a perpetual student for the last 25 years.
Oh,
so
okay.
He feels like he's part of the team.
So what, he works
hilarious.
in like the bookstore, the food
No,
court?
Don't laugh. He's the mailman for the campus.
Okay. Oh, he's a postal worker. Well, then, respect
not for
him.
the post office, just for the campus.
Okay, that's fair.
He actually worked at a bar, and he wasn't getting enough hours, so some guy who worked for the college goes, "Hey, we need someone to deliver mail." He's like, "I'll do it."
Okay.
With his master's degree in some business and something else, he's
hey, if it keeps you happy, man. Well, hey,
yeah, he's happy.
Hey, you know what? If that's what's the saying? Like, if you like love what you do for a living, you'll never work a day in your life, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So maybe he's not working. He's just living the dream. Hey, maybe we're the jealous ones. Who knows?
I'm a little jealous, to be honest with you. I'd like to have a really good football team and work part time.
Well, I think give it time. I think the Irish will get there. We are 3 games in a row undefeated, which is good, and we're on the up and up. Well, here, Adam Dowling just jumped on. I wanted to get his feedback of Vegas. I need a debrief from him. But James, before we jump over to Adam, what do you think of Stanford here? And then we'll give you another minute or two here.
Stanford, the record's not great, but they're not as bad as they were last year. It seems like I haven't watched any of the games, but the scores are a little closer than you thought. They only lost by 13 to USC, I think. And they have really big wide receivers and tight ends per usual. And if we're not good enough to look at any team right now and be like, they're just Stanford. Every game has to be a Super Bowl for Notre Dame right now till they really get going. It's they can't overlook them, but we should win by at least 17 points, at least going away. What? And I'm going to be there, so they better win by 17 points.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of feedback on Twitter, people going to this game or going to the UNLV game, which is cool. Well, anyway, I hope you have a good trip there. James, thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
At James is it McGree or McGray?
I don't even know it's not my real name. It's something so I could go on Twitter. It might be McRae or something.
We're gonna go with McGray. MCGRAE. That's so people can find you. We're that's how we plug you. Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, James. All right. Well, that's James. I think I've followed him for a while here. Adam, you've been invited to speak. If you want to, we have like 20 questions. Well, not 20 questions, but you were lighting up Twitter with the photos and little video clips or whatnot of your time in Vegas. So you've been invited to speak and join the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Before we get into Adam, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about with this BYU game that I just didn't, notice, 20 minutes after the game ended, when we did the podcast. Instead, obviously we want to get the instantaneous reaction from the fan base. And the stats that I noticed is as follows. This is the first time this season that we have scored in every single quarter, which is interesting. It's like why we're celebrating that and doing the two-handed fists, here, kind of pat on the back here. But 3 points in the first quarter, 15, 7, and 3. So we scored in every quarter. So awesome. Okay. Passing attempts per touchdown was very, very good. It was 9.3. It's the best it's been all year. And Drew Pine in this game, 9.3 is better than national champions on average. The Natty team, their passing attempts per touchdown is 12.05 if you want to be really specific. Now, unfortunately, BYU is better at 8.5, but they lost. So, wah. Okay. We had 0 sacks on Drew Pine from BYU. BYU had 0 sacks. And on the flip side of that, Notre Dame was pretty decent. We had 2 and 4 tackles for loss. So, hooray. So there's some goodness that we can take from BYU. Like, obviously, we had 0 rushing touchdowns, which we talked about in the last show. We had a really high run percentage. Our third down percentage was really good. It was 68%. So, yeah, we're doing good. But Adam, I see you've joined us. Thank you for joining us at Adam_Dowling1 on the Twitter. Back from Vegas, hopefully not hungover.
I'm still tired.
Oh, man. It looks like you were having a killer time.
It was amazing, man. It was a great time. There was so many Notre Dame fans.
It looked like it was just a complete Irish invasion of Vegas.
It was kind of weird because we got there on Thursday, and for 2 days, probably 2.5 days,
you drank nonstop.
Probably, well, yeah. But you didn't see one BYU shirt like anywhere.
Weird.
And then, but when you got in the stadium, they had a lot of people there.
Okay.
To be honest with you, they had a good amount. But you were thinking for a couple days, it's like, man, there are no BYU people here.
Wow, that's crazy. Now, maybe like BYU people weren't down on the Strip because they're either more local or they stay at local casinos, or they all drove in from Provo. Could that be?
Yeah, they can drive. Like Southern Utah is like a couple hours.
Yeah, like St. George isn't that far away, right? I don't know.
I've been there before, St. George, and I think people said it's like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive.
Yeah, it's not that far. Yeah, it's kind of in the high area there, but yeah, that's kind of the impression I get, that there was decent representation of BYU, and Notre Dame's still doing that thing where the guard is like kind of moving his arm forward to help the center hear the count, right? And so BYU fans did show up. They did represent. I don't think they were as loud, passionate, and tipsy as our Irish brethren. But yeah, that was the impression I got, that it was just nonstop Irish invasion, at least on the Strip and all the the hot spots there in Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. And that stadium is awesome. Anyone that place was great. I mean, it was comfortable. It was loud in there, and it was just a really cool place.
Now, where were your seats? Were you down the end zone or behind the end
I was
zone?
probably like we were on, the Notre Dame side, probably about in between the 15 and 20-yard line.
Okay, that's pretty good, yeah.
So like down where the band was and the students in that corner. So
okay, so you weren't in the
real.
up in the cheapos. You got comped because you had you were dominating the blackjack table at the Cosmo, right? And so they were like, "Oh, sir, come down from your seats and take these ones closer to the field."
No, I just thank my wife. She's the one that planned it all and got the good seats. And
Mrs. Dowling has the hookups.
Oh yeah,
she's the one that won at blackjack.
Yep, she's the one that.
She's the card shark. Nice.
Yep. So it was, it was real. That stadium's real comfortable. Real. I mean, it's just everything about it.
I hope it's air conditioned.
Awesome. Oh yeah, it was air conditioned. That's what I thought too. Like we were out on they had like a little fan fest in the parking lot. So I think that started like Pacific time. I think they said it was starting at like 1 and the game was at 4:30. We probably got there around like 2-ish. And we were out there maybe for like a half hour and we're like, oh my God, on this asphalt, it is miserable. We're going to fall out here. So the gates opened at like 2:30 and we got inside as fast as possible, but it was.
I bet. Well, I want and then we'll jump back to some football here, but you are there's only a handful of people that I know that are friendly-ish to the show that were there, and you're the only one that's on, and most likely the only one that will be on tonight. Everyone else either has kids or is umpiring, a baseball game or something right now. Do you have how was the Cosmo? I've never been there because that's where you were staying, right?
Yes, that was real nice, real clean. It's almost we liked it because it's not a huge it goes more vertical the property than wide, so you don't have to walk so much everywhere. You just go in an elevator, go up, So it was definitely a nice place. And then we went to New York on Friday night. They had a lot of stuff going on with a nice Irish pub there, and the drum line.
That's not too far of a walk from Cosmo.
Yeah, I think we got a cab because it's kind of
cab is the way to go. Last time I was in Vegas, we tried Ubering a few times, and it was okay to Uber from we stayed at the Luxor at the time just because it was cheap, and we went up to Fremont. So going that really far distance across town midday was not that bad, and Fremont's kind of wherever, right? So it's fine. But if you wanted to go from hotel to a hotel on the Strip, my opinion to people is spend the $5 to $10 more bucks and just take a cab, because they treat the Uber people like lepers, and you get picked up in a weird spot, and it's kind of inconvenient.
Yeah, you just go down to the lobby and they got the cabs.
You go to the lobby, the cabs are right there, and I have to share this story. So, like I said, the last time I was in Vegas was in 2019, and we got to the airport, and we're like, okay, we'll take an Uber, to the hotel, to the resort, and we get out there, and they're like, okay, you have to go across down the escalator, then across this bridge, then go up the elevator 3 levels, and that's where you get your Uber in the parking garage, right? And so we get up there, and there's literally hundreds of people there, and everyone's trying to get an Uber, and I'm like, F this. And we walk all the way back. It's a little better
now with the Lyfts and the Uber. They've kind of came around, but I think the taxis were extremely unionized with the hotels and everything.
I think so. I think that's still going on.
Yeah, but it's a lot better with Lyfts and Ubers now. You can get them. It's not they don't make you go to a different place like they used to.
Oh, okay. All right. So maybe they've improved that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Uber and Lyft gave them some money, right? Money talks, right? So.
Yeah. So the key was you had to get dropped off, like you said, at the Luxor. That was walkable to the stadium in Mandalay Bay. So you basically had to get dropped off at Mandalay Bay or Luxor or one of them right there.
I won't lie. I did Google Map from Mandalay Bay over to the stadium, and it told me it was a 20-minute walk. So I'm like, okay, I could do that. So
yeah, it wasn't bad. They shut down a bridge. I thought maybe they would do it better to where they would have some hotels or casinos almost connected to the stadium.
Oh, right.
This
No,
was
it's on the other side of the interstate. So
yeah, you got to walk over a bridge and all that stuff. But still, it was definitely a cool experience, man. The energy was awesome.
good.
I mean,
Did you win any money or did you gamble?
No, we didn't win any money.
Okay. So you lost money.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely lost money. But
that's all right. Hey, if you don't play, you don't win, right?
The whole experience was fun, though, man. It was awesome. I mean, it was definitely a good choice, doing the whole Vegas thing, because so many of our fans made the trip and did it. It wasn't. Part of me sometimes on those trips, like, why are we giving up a home game for this? But that was well worth it.
Excellent. How are the jerseys?
Cool. They looked awesome.
Yeah.
Everything looked good. We got some white shirts and stuff. We went to they had like a pop-up bookstore at the Bellagio.
Of course. The Bellagio of all places. Nice.
Yeah. We got a bunch of stuff, so it was fun.
That's awesome. Well, and that is the toast of the night is I've done some reflections and I'm not convinced. I'm going to say it's a tie right now between these jerseys that the team wore and the 2013 game in Arlington. I'm calling this a tie that both jerseys are they can both be my favorite for the Shamrock Series. I'd have to break them down and whatever, but the venue is cool. The Art Deco kind of look and vibe to them. But yeah, the jerseys there and the toast is going to Under Armour and whoever at Notre Dame, approves this or has a say, whatever, whoever that person is, toast this to you people. That jersey was dope. Awesome. By far, that's what you should do. And they did it right. I think in a big venue, big town, big atmosphere like Las Vegas.
It was probably the best jersey because I had multiple people I work with, friends, just that aren't even Notre Dame fans. They're like, oh man, those jerseys are awesome.
Yeah. Well, and they were clean and simple, right? I think it was 5 Foot Nothing Pod because he bought one and he was calling it the Icy Whites. And I'm like, that's a perfect description for them. And they were clean. They weren't busy. They didn't have all this other random goofy shit. It was just, here it is. And, like the dome was on the shoulder, but it was small and subtle, right? And I think it really, simplicity shines, And
what's so cool about that trip is just all the people we met, alumni, not alumni, just people from all over the country that were Notre Dame fans. It just was so cool. We met people from every corner of the country that were Notre Dame fans there for the game. It was awesome.
Well, and I think that's pretty typical of Notre Dame, and what's great about Vegas, and I think this is great, for Notre Dame as far as having foresight to have a Shamrock Series in Las Vegas, is every major airport in the United States flies to Vegas because they know that's a vacation, a resort, getaway destination, and to have a Shamrock Series at that location, and then there's kind of this wow factor to it. I think it's a fantastic decision by Notre Dame. Some people were kind of giving it shit, but I think they're definitely, the minority in that opinion, and they're entitled to their opinions. Of people there's gambling and this other kind of shady shit that happens in Vegas. But other than that, most people don't seek that out when they go to Vegas. They're there to have a good time, relax, let their hair down, whatever. And then they definitely want to put their walking shoes on because I imagine you got your steps in Vegas, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The first night, my wife and my sister-in-law were mad at me because we were going to dinner. I was like, oh, it's just right across the road. We don't need a taxi. And I think at the end of the day, we walked 8 miles. And then after the game, it was their idea. Well, let's just hit every hotel and casino back from, Mandalay Bay to Cosmo. And we ended up walking 11 miles.
Yeah, there you go. Wow, from Cosmo to Mandalay Bay? You walked that?
Yeah, we walked out after the game. We did, but we slowly stopped at every little place on the way.
There you go.
Because it was, when you think, at home here, in the Midwest, it's a night game.
Yes.
But when it ends there, it's 8. It was 8:00. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, and there's a lot to see there. So, there was one thing I wanted to ask, and then we'll get on to Wookie and Justin here, and Red Snapper's joined us here as well. So welcome, Red Snapper. He's got some Vegas stories, I'm sure, and some insight. What's up, Red Snapper? Welcome back to the show.
Hey, how are you guys? Adam, it was awesome to see your photos and with the family and everybody.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, my wife did all that stuff. She's good at that stuff, and it was it was definitely.
Can she
cool.
plan my next vacation? I want to go to Turks and Caicos too.
We went from Turks and Caicos straight to Vegas, and by the time I got home, I'm like, God, we need a staycation now.
And you guys were totally coordinated, all white, just like the team. It was on point. So kudos to your wife.
Well, the messed up thing is that we ordered some stuff from UND.com, like some polos and some good stuff, and it didn't make it to our house in time before we left.
Should have ordered from the Fighting
Vegas.
Irish Faithful Etsy store. I'm just throwing that out there.
So
Would have saved you some money, and it would have gotten there faster.
We were like, we got to get some white stuff now, so we had to go to that pop-up.
We have a white hoodie on the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Just saying. I need to hit up Mrs. Dowling here on Twitter and be like, hey, buy your husband this. Like Christmas is coming, right? I have to ask you, Adam, did you find secret pizza?
No, I did not.
What?
No.
I hear it's like God's gift to pizza, and maybe it's overrated.
Because I love pizza. I wish I would have.
Oh my gosh! It's in Cosmo. It's like you go up to level 3 and you look for a blue sign.
We did go up there the one that night after the game when we got back really late. But there was a line that was stupid.
Apparently, it's worth it. I'm just saying.
We're like, let's order some room service.
Oh, and that's why you have no money. Okay.
Yeah. And we got some milkshakes from there was a place called Milk, and it's
original,
an amazing ice cream.
$5 milkshake.
Did you just order a $5 shake?
I don't know. I don't remember what it cost. I mean, it was great though. But I was gonna jump on the night of the game, but where I was so loud, I just had to jump off. But
okay.
It's good to see real fast. This is good to see the team. They're getting better, but there was definitely some huge mistakes again. I don't think I ever want to see a safety blitz ever again, because we get burned all the time on those. That's what happened on that long touchdown for BYU, and what was that? Ohio State too. It's we time them up horrible. And then it almost felt like that game. We looked up at the stats. They had a big jumbo time with the stats. We doubled them up in yards. God, we should have won that game by 20 points.
Yeah, the yardage in this game was definitely in the favor of Notre Dame, right? 496 total yards for Notre Dame, 280 by BYU, and which is really great because the total offense by BYU for the season going into this game was 445.8 on average, and we almost like halved that, right? Which is fantastic, right? So defense really did well. Our total defense isn't the best thing since sliced bread. But, we're 36th in the country, and for a team that's just over 500 at 3-2 and lost to Ohio State in kind of a close game, I think we've given Ohio State the biggest challenge so far this season. Ohio State just hasn't found their sea legs yet, which at the time when we played them, which is very possible. But no, I think, Adam, you make a good point. We should have produced more offense as far as points on the scoreboard, right? Nope. Do we lose Adam?
A ton more offense because we kind of know what we are, but the defense gives up. it seems like the defense plays really good for a half, and then we give up some big chunk plays in the second half or stuff we shouldn't give up. Like, it just, I mean, we should have won that game by a lot more points.
Yeah.
And the next thing, I mean, I guess the last kind of, it's easy to kind of critique when we won. This is easy, but I'm sure that people have already talked about that. But
we
going
are
for
fans
2,
of constructive criticism on this show, so bring it on.
Going for 2, we would have been up by 9 at the end. Freeman went for 2. What was that? First half or early third? I think it was maybe second quarter.
Put us up by 2 touchdowns. I understand the call on that one because we had the field goal, then the touchdown, and then the safety. So we really
right?
Yeah, the safety.
That touchdown after that safety made sense to go for 2. Just to get 14 points. So I understand the logic in it. I wasn't a fan of the play call, but it definitely, if I was the head coach, I would have made that call to go for 2.
I just kind of hate going for 2 till like the fourth quarter. Like, I would rather like just play the game. It's a long game, and then like the fourth quarter, wait till later in the game. I know some people would probably say, no, that's not the way to do it, but it's a long game, and kind of, I know what you're saying. It was to go up 14, but we would have been up 13 at the time. A touchdown and a field goal instead. So I guess it's kind of just like picking hairs a little bit, but that's the only thing. But it seems like the team, though, I mean, they're getting better. They're responding to Freeman. There's something about this team that's like I know it's been a struggle, but it looks like there's like real emotion. There's nothing fake, forced. It's something refreshing sometimes with this team.
Yeah, no, I'm with you right there. I think the Marshall game was a huge, slap, cold shower, however you want to metaphor that. And
bring us back down to reality.
Yeah, and it's like, look, come down, right? Okay, you got a brand new coach, right? New offense, a team that's still looking for leadership and this, that, and the other. And then it's like, okay, we got to gut one out against Cal to get back. And then North Carolina is a confidence booster. And then we go into BYU on the road with all the pomp and circumstance and all the kind of, just Notre Dame, money just flowing around everywhere with Vegas, which is fine. Like, I mean, I kind of expect it, but which is great though, like to go there and win. And I would argue that this is probably one of the most challenging Shamrock Series games we've had. Maybe Wisconsin last year, was also challenging, but like we've done Chicago twice now. It's not even close. Soldier Field versus Allegiant Stadium, Vegas, a 20-minute walk from the Strip, right? Gosh, like you can't even compare, and I said this on the last show, and I'm going to say it again. Notre Dame needs to play in 5 years, because I did some research on this. In 5 years, Notre Dame needs to play Boise State or Colorado in Mile High Stadium in Denver. Okay, I think that would be awesome. And do it kind of closer to the end of the year. That's just kind of my opinion. But yeah, in Mile High, in Denver, Boise State, and just, they're the Broncos. It's Broncos Stadium, right? It kind of works. And plus, Boise State is a soft spot in my heart. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm going to get off here, guys. Let some other people get on. I'm going to go to bed early tonight. I'm still struggling.
Good for you.
Sleep.
Good for you. Get caught up on your sleep and go to work.
It was definitely an awesome trip. And if we ever do that again, people need to go because it was so much fun. Like, even not, like I said, some of the people we were with weren't the biggest football fans, but they were like, this was amazing. This was great. It was awesome.
Sure. And I think Notre Dame football tends to do that. Like my wife, the doc, she does not come from a football family, but she is very savvy now into what's happening with Notre Dame. Now, granted, she lives with me. I'm running this podcast, and, so like it's kind of like it's hard for her to avoid it, but she's really savvy. And we've talked about this on an older show. I think it was, one of the bye weeks last year, and I had made a comment about how my wife, the doc, one of my proudest moments, we weren't even married yet. We were engaged, and we were at a game. It was the Nevada game in 2009. And my sister-in-law, who is not very football savvy, at least at the time, she was kind of like, oh, what happened? There was like a penalty or who knows what. And she's like, oh, what just happened there? And so I leaned forward to like be like, oh, well, this, and explain the rule or whatever. And my wife, well, the doc leans forward and she kind of like cuts me off. And she's like, well, actually, sister. And then like she explains the rule. And I'm like, I'm done. There's nothing more for me to do. Like, I have arrived, and this person that I love, that I'm gonna, share vows with in less than a year, this is fantastic, right? Let's make children, and we have one kid now, but
Yep. So that's how my wife is now too. She's like explaining everything to her sister.
She's like, why the fuck are they in a nickel package? They need to go to dime.
Yeah. But
all right,
I'll
Adam.
get off now and let you guys go. But yeah, hopefully we keep this momentum going and go Irish.
All right, go Irish. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for the debrief of Vegas.
No problem. Bye.
All right, good night. All right, thank you, Adam Dowling, at Adam_Dowling1 on the Twitter. A good friend of the show, very loyal person, and we live vicariously through him. We've invited the Wookiee to speak. It's been a few weeks, sir. You've recovered from a hurricane, but you're still underneath IT tickets with your work. Hello, sir.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude, it's been a rough couple of weeks around here with having to evac and then work from the evac with a slow internet connection when I'm doing IT stuff. But, we all made it through.
Sounds like my company.
Right? We made it through and we're able to watch some Notre Dame games and everything. But I agree with everybody. I thought that we should have beat BYU by at least 2 more scores than what we did. Yes, the defense did give up some mistakes and whatnot, but I am here to reiterate again, Al Golden's defense is coming. Just give it time. Trust me, it's coming. Takeaways are coming.
I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'm also glad that you're on the up and up, and your house didn't get washed away halfway to Cuba. I'm glad you brought up the defense because and don't get me wrong, like we can always do better, but there's a few things I wanted to talk about. Specifically, we'll jump to the D line, and there's 2 things I wanted to say that the O line and the D line are good, but since you brought up defense, the D line has been very good. Our sacks per game, we are averaging 3, and we're 18th in the country, which is fantastic. It's one of our best stats, and national champions on average also average 3 a game. So we're right on par with what really good teams do. Secondly, tackles for loss is not as good as sacks, but it's still pretty good as well. Tackles for loss per game, right now we're averaging 6, and the national champion average is 7.2-ish when you do the math of the last 10 years.
Right around there. He works from the front back.
Now, what's interesting...
He starts with the line.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
Oh, he starts with the line and then works his way back to the secondary. So that's why you're kind of maybe seeing some mistakes in the secondary that shouldn't be there, but... we just got to get to a well-oiled machine and it'll come.
I think so. I mean, like if you really think about it, this is 5 games in with a new defensive coordinator, and he's going to run his system, right? And it's it's pretty advanced, relative to what he's bringing from the pros and from his experience as a head coach at multiple programs at Miami and at Temple, right? So, I think it'll come with time. And I think where they're at right now, is a great place to be, and it's certainly a strength of this team when someone like Foskey and let's go back to this BYU game. The reason why we won this game and we shut them down, there's 2 things, and Coach Freeman talked about this to the team in the locker room. If anyone saw that on Twitter or Irish media, whatever, they had a huge stop on fourth down, right? And I think it was Jason Amiola who made the tackle or whatever it was, and so huge stop on fourth down to plug up BYU, end their drive, hand the ball over to Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame gets the ball back, and then the offensive line comes forward, blocks appropriately. We're able to get that first down to ensure the victory as far as taking a knee and that sort of thing in victory formation. But we had to get another first down, and so the line was able to enable that to happen. But it starts with that D line, those guys up front, and if you have someone like Amiola, Foskey, it doesn't matter, Riley Mills even. These guys are the ones that are getting it done in the trenches, beating up the O-line of the opponent. And I can't ask for more.
Yeah, Foskey's just a beast, man. I love watching him play. Good God.
Absolutely. And there's something else I wanted to look at. So, and this kind of surprised me. I do my normal debrief of all the stats after the game. I don't really pay too much attention to them as far as like really studying them and looking for unique things when I go through, on a post-game show. It's kind of more just like quickly, frantically type everything in, and then I can reference it if necessary. But tonight, to prepare for tonight, there's something that really jumped off, the spreadsheet for me, and that's our pass defense, which I think is going to be kind of, earth-shattering here, because people are like, wait, what are you talking about? We gave up big plays. We have all these pass plays that are whatever. Look, step away from some of those, because those events do happen, and we should eliminate them. So don't get me wrong. They're not okay. But if you look in aggregate for how the passing defense is as a team, it's not terrible. We right now on pass defense are averaging 194.6 yards per game. Wookie, do you know what the national champion average is for their pass defense?
I hope it's lower.
It's only slightly lower. It's 192. 2.6 yards. We are worse, quote unquote, by less than 3 yards.
It's so close.
It's so close. And look, it can always be better. And sometimes, and sometimes with these big plays, it's like the timeliness of it, right? BYU had their big pass in the third quarter, and it kind of gave them a spark and brought them, back in the game and made the game interesting, quite frankly. But look, national champions average 192 passing yards or passing defense. Notre Dame's 194.
Wow.
After this past game, which is crazy, right? It's like,
it's coming together.
It is coming together. And look, and if you really look back, like we weren't, fabulous against Ohio State because they had 395, and that's expected, right? North Carolina 367. They don't run the ball. All they do is pass, right? But you look at some of these other games, like it's coming together. And Notre Dame, limited in this game, BYU, a high-powered passing offense, we limited their passing yards to only 120 yards. 120 yards, right? So that's a good place to be, and we're averaging 194.6. So I'm not saying that Clarence Lewis and Tariq Bracy and some of these guys, like, oh, they're doing fine. Like, no, like sometimes I think you fall asleep back there, or you just need to get better. But at the same time, 194.6 yards, ranked 31 in the country. The Natty team is 25. We're 6 points off 5 games into the season, and it's going to get better against a shitty Stanford team.
Absolutely, it's going to get better. I think the one thing that you look at is this is a very young team, a very young secondary. It's got a lot of new pieces, from defensive coordinator all the way down to position players, transfers, you name it. This defense has it. And so to have that kind of, production or anti-production, I guess, is the cherry on the top, and it's only going to get better. So, we're going to see this defense get better, and we're dealing with freshmen. We're dealing with sophomores, first year starters. These are guys that are green, and you get them into that defense that Golden has, which very much is a bend, don't break, and don't give up the big play. And unfortunately, it's catching us every once in a while.
Yeah,
but
unfortunately, it's happening too much.
It's gonna be an attrition.
It's probably because of a stupid safety blitz, right?
Or it's a misread, or it's an ill-timed, or they just happen to have the perfect play at the perfect time when we're dialing that up. And the odds of that happening are going to be slim to none. But that's, again, football is a team sport. That's why you have an offense. That's why you have a defense. You have to play all facets of the game equally. So is it solely on the defense for giving up the big play and losing the game? No, because the offense needs to do their part. Special teams needs to do their part. So you can sit back and you can say, okay, 3rd and 17, we shouldn't have given them the first down. Correct. We shouldn't have. But in the grand scheme of the game, the defense definitely pulled their weight, definitely led the game in their role. So the offense had to step up, and the offense did. And honestly, I think the biggest reason why we didn't win by 20 points wasn't because of the defense's production. It was because of our lack of red zone production.
Yeah, and that's a good point you bring up, because our red zone, going into the Stanford game, it's better than them. We're 39th in the country in red zone scoring, right? But red zone touchdowns, it's not terrible, but it's not great. We're ranked 46. We score touchdowns in the red zone 68% of the time, which is really, really sad, because going into this game, we were 10th in the country. We were scoring in the red zone 83% of the time. And then you go into this game, it drops to 68, So, there's some statistics right there that make you drop dramatically from 10th in the country to 46 in red zone touchdowns. So that ain't good. But let's bring it back to Wookie here. The defense is going to improve. The pass defense, I think, can only get better. It could get worse, but I don't think it will get worse. I think the coaching staff is too good to let some things slide. One question I wanted to ask the Wookiee here is about Drew Pine. What's your thought of him now that as a starter he is undefeated at 3-0?
As a starter, I had my doubts at the beginning of the season.
As did I.
Just because we did not see as much as I would liked to have seen him last year under, previous guy. But I was questioning it, and now I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable. I'm getting a little bit more confidence in him. But he just got to make those big plays downfield. He's got to get more. He's got to air it out more. Got to throw the deep ball.
Yeah, and I think that's a function of the play calling. We gave the mayor of Las Vegas right now, his first name is Mike. Okay, Mike Mayer. Okay. So I think Red Snapper said that in the post game, but the you're 100% right. We do not have Tobias Merriweather. Styles didn't have any deep bomb. Lindsey, buddy, you're still in a milk carton. We're still looking for you. I'm pretty sure you only had one reception in the last game. And maybe that's not your fault. Maybe it's play calling and just kind of down and distance and kind of situational, whatever, game plan, gamesmanship, whatever. My point is, what makes passing exciting is when you get a couple of deep passes, deep shots, 30 plus yards. It doesn't even have to be for a score. It can just be down the sideline, big chunk plays that move the chains, and then you just grind out the rest of the way. That's perfectly fine. But I think every now and then you need one of those. I think what the Wookiee's getting at here is you need, some of those big chunk passing plays as a threat, not only to make your offense look good, and it's very exciting for us as fans, but it keeps the defense honest, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's like
Absolutely, you need it. But I think it also, play calling is going to go hand in hand with Drew Pine's development and evolving, how quickly he goes through his progression. All of that is going to be, all that's going to do is open up more of those deep passes and playbook. The success he has, you want to try them, but you don't just want to throw darts in the dark. You want to make sure it's a play that he's comfortable with, that is executed properly, and that the receiver and him are on the same page. We have some inherent talent. When you see, the receiver take away for his first career touchdown, that's not only having the trust in a 50-50 ball.
And you're referring to Thomas on that.
Yeah. He that was an unbelievable play, taking that ball away. It was an underthrow, and that was trusting your receiver, and the receiver made it.
And he was totally held on that too.
Yeah, but again, that's going to be an attrition. It's going to be, as Pine gets comfortable with his receivers have to make plays. He's comfortable throwing the ball to Mayer because Mayer's going to make the play. If he knows that Thomas is going to make plays, he's going to throw him the ball more. And that's it. It's kind of a self-serving thing. You've got to throw him the ball to give him the opportunity to make the play. So I understand that. But the other side of it is I'm not just going to throw darts in the dark. I'm going to make sure that if I'm going to throw the ball, it's going to be a play. It's going to be a catchable play.
Yeah, and it's really refreshing. Everyone's talking about Tobias Merriweather here, and wanting him to see a lot of the receptions, right? But look, sometimes some guys make the transition better from high school to college better than others. Tobias Merriweather, everyone's looking at him. He was the 5th ranked guy coming into this recruiting class as a true freshman, right? And everyone's like, oh, play the true freshman, go in and do this, do that, and because that's exciting and everyone likes it. Now Jaden Thomas, I'm pretty sure he redshirted his first year. Now he was a 4-star recruit, out of Pace Academy in Atlanta, right? And it's really nice to see him. And so maybe there's something with that, like we really haven't seen Jalen Sneed, a 5-star recruit. And I would argue that we have a lot of depth at the linebacker crew right now. So seeing Jalen Sneed and Josh, Burnham, for example, our two best recruits in 2022 are linebackers. Seeing them, like if we're seeing them as true freshmen, maybe that's not a strength of the program, right? I'm just gonna throw that out there. We'd love to see them play, but maybe it's better that we leave their red shirt on. They get some scout team, opportunities. They get some film study. They get some, bulk in the weight room, in the, the strength and conditioning program. They get used to the college life, and Notre Dame is not an easy place, to study, to be a student, right? So, I know it was difficult for me, bringing tears to my eyes. It was hard as hell. So I imagine, for these guys, they're up to the challenge. It's nice to see that. But to see Thomas get, his first career touchdown in the way he got it, just totally out-athleting the opponent, the guy from BYU. What more can we ask, especially on a big stage like in Vegas, on a pro field?
And that's going to be a touchy subject when it's playing chicken with a true freshman of, do you lean on his inherent talent, or do you give him that, that support of let him learn his way into the role and the talent that he already has? Let's enhance it. Let's educate. So it's not talent going just off on talent alone, but let's give him the support he needs. So it is that fine playing chicken. So, I mean, that is really, we're clamoring for these freshmen because we know the talent levels there based on the recruiting. But that's where we have to have faith in the coaches and coaching staff to basically, we got to know our role as fans, and we've got to trust their role as coaches, that they're putting the best guys on the field for the best opportunity to win.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We're not used to freshmen playing in games, starting. This is all new to us. So, it's a whole new ball game right now. We're starting freshmen. Like, when was the last time that happened?
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes like look, if you have a transcendent athlete, you got to play that guy. But if like the recipe of success usually is you have your upperclassmen kind of being leaders and being, I don't know, productive on the field. That's usually the recipe of success for good teams. Every now and then, you got a freshman, a Johnny Manziel or, pick your favorite freshman that comes in, and it's like, look, you just got to play him just because we put him out there, and yeah, he gets it done. And you know what? That's a really good place for Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman to be at, where if you are recruiting elite talent and they're getting out there, and it's like, look, what gives us our best opportunity to win? If it's the freshman with his talent and his skill set, I have no doubt that the coaching staff, look, they see these guys every day in practice. They see, the work they're putting in. They see their competency. At some point, I have to hand the keys to the car, obviously, over to them because they're being paid lots of money to make these decisions and go through these things. I don't think they're sleepwalking. They're definitely going through and evaluating what is best for this football team and what, enables us to beat our opponent. And so we may want Tobias Merriweather just because I would argue we're a little impatient because he is so good and he comes from a, well-known high school in Southern California at Corona Centennial. And, Red Snapper and I are like, hell yeah, represent. But even though we didn't go to Corona Centennial, but point being, we want our team to be successful, and we recognize there's this amazing talent, but at some point it's like, I have to defer to the guys that see them every day, because I've never, ever, other than highlight reels and, shit from recruiting websites, I've never seen Tobias Merriweather in person.
And another angle to think about with all of this is we're talking about Marcus Freeman as a head coach. And that will evolve, and we'll learn more as this year progresses and it turns into next year. But the idea that we have of Marcus Freeman as a player coach, when you sit back and you look at it, you also really want to get into the mind, is he coaching for the here and the now of Notre Dame? Or is he coaching the team with the mentality of, I'm going to do what's best for the team, but also for each individual player on each of their journeys? So is it inherently better for knowing the role and the talent that he sees day to day with Tobias Merriweather, to be example? Is he coaching him for the here and the now for Notre Dame's success? Or is he really invested on each of these players' individual talents, success here at Notre Dame and beyond, which ultimately all it's going to do is help glorify Notre Dame? Yes, we want the wins. And yes, we want statistics. And yes, we want him to perform. If he's a Randy Moss equivalent talent, we're going to see it because it's going to be on the field. But I also trust that Marcus Freeman has that wherewithal to do what's best for Tobias Merriweather in his journey as a Notre Dame player, as a Notre Dame student, and moving forward and beyond.
Oh yeah, it's like, why not? You're a 4-star, 5-star athlete. Okay, show me. You start first game. Let's go. I mean, you got nothing to lose first game, especially being a brand new head coach. Like, why the hell not start freshman? Let's go.
Yeah. Wookie, what do you think of our team? Because one thing I think that's interesting is, yes, Notre Dame this season is now 3-2, going into this game against Stanford, which is great. We're finally on the positive side there, on the win side. But Marcus Freeman is now at 500 as a head coach. You know, technically that Oklahoma State game will stay with him, which is fine. We'll follow the numbers. What does Marcus Freeman, or even just, we don't have to talk specifically about Coach Freeman, but Notre Dame need to do to beat the Cardinal?
Oh, Notre Dame to beat the Cardinal? Run it up. I want to see.
Yes.
I want to see Drew Pine's arm. That is what I want to see. I want to see his accuracy.
Oh, I thought you were going to drop like a hashtag RTDB kind of tweet. Damn it. Now you're talking about chucking it deep and selling it cheap.
Dude, I want to see his arm, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be seeing the game this week. I'm going to miss it. But
it's a night game.
It's because I'm going to go see the new Halloween Ends movie. So I'm doing
in
that.
The theater.
Oh, I know. But
do you have DVR?
It's the last movie.
What?
It's the last movie. It's the last one.
Is it really the last movie?
John Carpenter's movie? Yes.
Okay, fair enough. All
and
right.
it's entitled Halloween Ends, so...
Yep.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen.
Disney will pick it up and fuck it up.
Hey, no. That's the last thing that I want is Disney. Give it to Rob Zombie, please.
Oh, no, that you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel there.
He did 1 and 2. He did Halloween 1 and 2.
I did love his version. I'm still a fan of the originals, but I did love it.
I've only seen Halloween 1, and we watched it. Gosh, it was before we had a kid, but we were like, we've never seen Halloween, and it's like it's pretty old, and it can't be too like whatever. And so we're like, we watched it, and we're like, this is amazing. This is so iconic for horror films. Like, and then I went through and read a couple articles about like how that movie came to be, and like the concept of it being like around on Halloween night was actually kind of an afterthought. And they're like, here, just carve some pumpkins and throw it in there and just put the kids in a costume and then call it good. And it's just like, oh yeah, now it's Halloween. And like, okay, like there's so many the elements of horror films I think derive from that. Not that this is not a podcast about Hollywood and film, but yeah, so, okay, all right. At least you're seeing, something legit, and you're clearly passionate about this, but that's fine. Not so much for the show, but I respect you.
Sorry to get off topic. I apologize.
Well, how about this? You can jump on the post-game show if we're doing one, or maybe Red Snapple will run a post-game show. Who knows?
I'll jump on.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can debrief us on Halloween ending.
I won't do any spoilers though, but I will debrief.
All right, is Jamie Lee Curtis in it?
She is.
Oh my god.
Of course. They're all in it. Again, the ones that survive kills.
I was gonna say,
all grown up. Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, Wookie. Justin Cates has been on the entire time. We're finally going to get to him. Kevin Davis is patiently waiting. JB has jumped on and off, and a few other people. Wookie, thank you for joining us at Wookie4C Elliott on the Twitter. Thank you for joining the Fighting Irish Faithful Show again. Welcome back. Glad you're doing well after post Hurricane Ian, and we will talk to you soon. Potentially a debrief of whether or not we should go see a new scary movie.
All right. Thank you, guys. I am actually going to bow out and get to sleep.
All right.
Go Irish.
Go Irish.
Go.
Thank you, Wookie. Justin, thank you for joining us. You finally are on.
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. It's Tuesday night. Notre Dame is 3-2. We finally have a winning record. What do you think about all of this? We're going in, returning home after big Shamrock Series game and now we got Stanford, and they're kind of shitty. not that we should be concerned, but is there any potential for a letdown in this game, or is Stanford just so bad that, they don't even deserve to be on the field with us?
I just need to say first, I have a real problem with skipping a Notre Dame game for a Halloween movie. Sorry. I just have to say that. A Wookiee seems very nice, but I just feel like I just don't know.
We're nice people.
He's a great person, it seems like. I just can't. I mean,
He
I can't
means
co-sign
well.
on that. Yeah.
I
know he's not asking me to co-sign, but if he asked me, I couldn't do it.
No, he's not going to wait till Saturday. He'll be there for the pre-show on Thursday or Friday.
I mean, that's my thought. It's like, yeah, he's going to be doing like I imagine he's like planned this out, where some of us are planning our, Notre Dame, well, Mrs. Dowling is of course planning Adam's, vacations there in Vegas or Turks and Caicos or whatever. I need to have her set up my next vacation, because clearly she did a good job for Adam. Although they didn't go to Secret Pizza, but back to Justin's point here is, hey, everyone's got their priorities, and I agree with you, Justin. I don't want to say roll my eyes, but I'm just like, really? Like, okay. Like, I mean, let's also not kid ourselves. Wookiee's Twitter handle is NASCAR related, and that's not a slight against NASCAR. Like, it's just, hey, his priorities are, I'm happy he's joining in on our show. He stayed on the whole time leading up to over like an hour into the show, as did you, Justin. So
I gotta support it,
Ohio native who lives in Florida, so he loves NASCAR.
Yeah, he's from Ohio. He lives in Florida. He likes NASCAR, and he's diehard Irish, and he thrills us with his Irish rave. I've got to find that track. I might have to DM him and be like, dude, send me a link to
his trans version of it.
Yeah, it's like a rave, hip fun version of Dropkick Murphys shipping up to Boston. And it's like, and I haven't done extensive research on this, but it's like, where did he find that? Maybe I shouldn't ask those questions, but all right, let's go back to football here. Justin, because this is a Notre Dame football show, the Fighting Irish Faithful Show, volume 63 of all times. I can't believe I've podcasted 66. No, volume 67. What am I saying? Justin, what do you think going into Stanford? Because they are on the ropes. And they have some serious problems as a team, but they also have some stats that I think can cause some problems for Notre Dame, specifically red zone touchdowns.
Well, they're giants on the outside, which is a real problem. Sorry, my son's here watching the Muppets.
Is it the Great Muppet Caper?
He's watching the one with Jason Segel and the red Amy Adams, maybe her name is.
Oh, the new one. Okay, right on.
Yeah. So, the problem with that Stanford presents is they got a quarterback with, a cannon attached to his shoulder, and like grossly oversized receivers. So, I think not having Tariq Bracy hurts, because I'm sure he'll be out with his hamstring. Taller guys are going to be worth a lot, and I don't know. I just feel like I don't think we're going to lose. I don't think Notre Dame's going to lose, but I feel like that could present a real problem.
No, it definitely would be a good test. I think it's going to present a nice challenge coming off of the last two games. And just seeing the slow improvement with the defense is going to be another almost lesson for the secondary. So it's going to be great to see how the secondary matches up against the taller receivers.
Well, and this could be their offensive line is doo-doo. So it may be a good opportunity for the defensive line to get after a little bit. Sort of, who cares if the receivers are 6'5" and 6'6", it won't matter with a lot of pressure on this quarterback, and he's so unathletic. He's not moving. The pocket's not moving.
For interceptions for our defense, then over under for interceptions
1.5.
I think it might be more, guys, and I didn't break down this.
I'm going to take the over.
I think it is going to be the over, and the reason why that is Stanford is last. They are the worst team in college football. They are 131st in turnover margin. They are minus 11 on the season. We thought Notre Dame was bad at minus 4, ranked 104th, which is not good. I can't believe, anyone who's seen I know Red Snapper's seen this, and maybe some other people who are pretty savvy. I highlight the better stat. Notre Dame is better at minus 4 at 104th in the country over Stanford, minus 11 on the season. Last,
yeah,
in
but we don't
football.
Turn the ball over, man. We don't turn it over.
We did against Marshall, unfortunately, but and usually if we turn it over, they turn it over. So it's all an aggregate, right? Where you are relative to your opponent. There's a reason why I don't look at turnovers per game. I look at your overall status of turnovers relative, because it's in aggregate, right? Did they turn over the ball or did we turn over the ball? To me, I think that, in my opinion, makes more sense, because it's how is the play swinging? How is the ball moving back and forth? And the aggregate value, I think, captures that better. That's my opinion, and I'm running this podcast, so that's what we're gonna do. So, Gospel of Joe. But another problem that Stanford has going for them is not only rushing defense, but total defense. They're not good, guys. They're really not good. They're 121st in the country in rushing defense. I mean, shit, we thought we were going to run all over North Carolina, and we did, quite frankly. We had 287 yards in that game. Shit, North Carolina averages 207 yards. They're 121 ranked in the country in rushing defense. It's really not good, Justin.
Yeah. I'm not impressed with Stanford. I just feel like I thought it was a good game. Notre Dame proved a lot on Saturday. I think they won a lot of little battles to end up winning the war. It's just getting little first downs and things like that ended up being very big. There's no reason for me to feel confident in Tommy,
right?
Rice.
The huge defensive stop on 4th down, and then a big first down by the offense to really ice the game and bring out victory formation. That's what good teams are supposed to do. And I really think that the naysayers of the Shamrock Series, and those people are entitled to their opinion, so I don't want to criticize them. The naysayers of the Shamrock Series are, number one, why would you give up a home game for some circus atmosphere, somewhere else? Okay, that is a fair point. And number two, it's well, you're in it for the money, not so much for whatever. Here's my thing on this. Look, do the Shamrock Series. If you don't do it every year, I'm totally fine with that. If you do it every 3 years and you make the venue dope, like what they did this year, I think this really sets the bar really high. I don't know how you can top this. Vegas, right? Wow, there's all this atmosphere and environment around the game, and anyone who's listening to this, clearly I like Las Vegas. Fine. But it is fun, for if you're an adult, who can legally drink booze and who can, support your football team and who can live vicariously and just kind of carefree and whatever as an adult. Yeah, there's nothing better than Las Vegas. Maybe second best would be New Orleans or something, right? But it's not going to be the same as Vegas, right?
So people aren't going to travel to New Orleans like they will Vegas.
I don't think they will either. And the Superdome is cool. It is owned, I guess, or the name on the top of it is Caesars now. But that's my point. You can't I don't think Notre Dame could do any better with the Shamrock Series than with this game in Vegas. And I will say this, if Notre Dame finally decides to kill the Shamrock Series after Vegas because they know they can't do better than this, okay, that's fine. It is what it is. Now if they brought it back and they played like, in Seattle where the Seahawks play against UW, I think that'd be cool. If they played, it's got to be a pro field. Okay. The only anything other than that would be more crazy would be like playing, Alabama and Wembley in, fucking London, right? Like I can't imagine, and they won't, and Alabama won't do that. They won't go for that. So,
it's too cold there.
Well, and I don't think Notre Dame will go for that because Alabama's too good. So, it's always like some team that's like 1A or 2A,
I would love to see the Shamrock Series include a team that we all want to see, and it would kind of be a home game for them because of the location, but SC at SoFi.
I think SC at SoFi would be good. UCLA at SoFi. Like, I'm really encouraged that UCLA is on the up and up, right? Under Chip Kelly. They're finally kind of getting their sea legs. Well, and you and I, Red Snapper, we're... And accountability here. I went back and listened to the last show, and I don't remember exactly when it was. I made a mistake, and I said something about we were SC fans. That is completely false. All right, so I'll go to confession, say 5 Hail Marys.
I believe the phrase was pro USC.
Why did you not text me? What's wrong with you, brother? You're my older brother. You're supposed to look out for me.
I was joking.
But that's my point. Like USC, UCLA, whatever in SoFi, they just had the Super Bowl there. Unfortunately, like you got to go where the hand is hot, and unfortunately, a lot of the big name teams, the good teams, there usually isn't really a pro, field or whatever nearby. And that's why I was like, well, BYU and Vegas is kind of suspect. But look, home and home against Oregon, home and home against Penn State, home and home against Boise, or put Boise in Colorado or whomever in Mile High Stadium. That's cool.
Alabama at Dallas, Texas Cowboys.
Yeah, or do it in Houston. Right? You do it in Houston, or shit, do it in the Astrodome, right? That's like a historical building now at this point. It's probably not as nice as wherever, the Texans play, but and we don't have to play in the Astrodome, but like, yeah, and that might be kind of cool to play in the Astrodome, but shit, if they did that, I might go. Astrodome has a special place in my heart.
The problem that first of all, I want to commend you. I think the playing Navy like every 3 or 4 years is awesome.
I think so
that's
too.
A great idea.
Like, I have no problem with Notre Dame, playing one of the service academies, and I'll throw it back to you here in a second, Justin. I've thought about this very long and hard, and it's like I don't have a problem with Notre Dame sticking to the tradition and the homage and thanks and gratitude to the Naval Academy for keeping Notre Dame open during World War II. I got no problem with that. But at some point, it's like, well, at what point, like, what is Notre Dame getting out of this, right? Other than, the service academy is getting kind of a bump here. But, I mean, my tax dollars help pay for that. And that's not to be negative, but it's kind of is what it is. Well, like, why are we giving so much favoritism to Navy? Like, why don't we just play, one of the academies every 3 years?
I think you put a little more shine on it too. If they're not playing every year, like right now, it's like
exactly.
We all just hate Navy,
right?
If you only played it once every 3 or 4 years, you may be like, "Hey, it's a Navy game."
Yeah, there's like a rotation, and you kind of look forward to playing Navy. It's like, oh, we haven't played Navy in 3 years, and it's like that's cool, and like we haven't played Air Force since. And I do remember the last time Notre Dame played Air Force. It was in 2013 because it was the Saturday right before I left the United States to go live overseas for 6 months with the doc, for a work assignment, which was awesome.
There's your game.
Yeah, and we killed them right in 2013, right? So that was cool. We played Army, I think, in 2016 last time we played. So I would rather play one of the 3 service academies every year and just put them on a rotation. Yeah, I think Notre Dame could work that out. Put them one every year and then rotate it, and then we can look forward to playing Navy rather than just like, oh, I gotta play Navy. I mean, this year's a little different because we're playing in Baltimore, and that's kind of cool. But I don't know, like, I don't know.
All right, Justin, give me your spread for the game against Stanford. What do you think the spread's going to be?
What do I think it's going to be? Or what would I set it at?
What would you set it at?
I think Notre Dame will probably win by 2 touchdowns. I think it should be a bloodbath, but I don't have a ton of faith in our offensive coordinator, nor they haven't put a full game yet together. So I don't know. I would say 14 points is that's generous for them right now.
Okay, I'll take the over, but
I was thinking about this same question as well, and I went back and looked at Notre Dame's victories over North Carolina, Cal, BYU. We just won by 8 points, 13 points, 7 points. I mean, we were favored to beat Cal by 10, BYU by 3, North Carolina by 1, and now all of a sudden, like 17, like, wow, and maybe I have some reticence for saying we're going to cover the spread against, based off the Marshall game, because we were favored by 20 points, and we don't need to talk about what happened there. I guess I don't really know if we're going to cover 17 points. I think Notre Dame should cover 17 points. I think Stanford is in a really bad spot, and we can jump ahead to this before we jump over to Kevin. And Kevin, thank you for staying on as much as you have. Really appreciate that. Shaw is not doing good right now, and we have a piece about that. But look, they're 1-4, and their only win is over Colgate, a toothpaste. Okay, like it's not good right now. Every Power 5 team they've played, they've lost, which is really surprising for a coach like David Shaw. And I did an analysis going all the way back to their last New Year's 6 win, which we'll talk about soon. But yeah, I don't know if I trust this team enough, this Notre Dame team enough, or if they've risen to that level of excellence where I can be like, oh, of course they should bury the Stanford team.
Well, and the other thing is that we're going to run the ball. The game is going to be shortened by that. I mean, if you look at what the snipes say in Vegas, that's what they're talking about. Is the game is going to be shortened by how much we run the ball, and 17 points. I mean, a lot of people, I think, who don't gamble, they'll say like, "Wow, 17 points." Like, they've obviously never been burned. You have a 24-point lead, with 3 minutes left, and you hit a back door, and it ends up a push, or you end up losing. I mean, that's a lot of points, especially for Notre Dame right now, who has given up touchdowns late.
I will say this. The only way Notre Dame beats Stanford by 17 plus points is if they come out fast and Stanford basically gives up in the second quarter or early in the third. If they pull, if they have some spark of life like Cal, North Carolina, and BYU, because let's face it, those 3 games, those 3 teams are only 3 wins. Those 3 opponents had some life, had some fight in them at the end. The only time I think we will be able to beat Stanford by that margin or greater is if we take the life and suck the life out of their eyes, early in the second half. That's the only way that happens.
And it may not be as hard because it's not like, and I don't want to sound disrespectful to Stanford, but it's not like they got, Marshall and North Carolina and BYU playing Notre Dame. That was like a Super Bowl for them. Stanford doesn't care. These kids don't care. They knew basically what they were signing up for, when they went to Stanford. And so I don't think it's going to be hard to take their heart if, like you said, they turn the ball over a few times and we score, and it could get out of hand. I don't have a lot of confidence saying, Notre Dame's going to win by more than 17.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna flip it on you guys. I'm in the other side of I'm gonna say Notre Dame's gonna win and beat the spread. We'll cover the spread because I see the running backs getting some big runs, and on top of that, go back to last game. Key stat: we had 0 rushing touchdowns.
Correct.
Which means we're throwing the ball. So if we can run the ball, we can get some long, big play runs for scorers, and you add the passing touchdowns, I honestly think we're going to win by 3 touchdowns.
Who's going to have the long touchdown runs?
At the attrition of Pine, the evolution of the receivers, looking at, as Garrett said so many times, the 3-headed monster, I think each of those guys breaks at least one run of 20 or more yards. So I see us with a lot of rushing yardage, but I see it a little bit more 50-50 in our scoring touchdowns, run and pass.
Very nice. And Red Snappers, appealing to my preference here. I would love for Notre Dame to run multiple yards, run up and down the field against the Cardinal. I have no problem with that. Well, Justin, any other final thoughts here, either on BYU, the Shamrock Series, the jerseys, or Stanford, before we jump over to Kevin, who's been patiently waiting?
I mean, nothing huge, man. I just hope you sell a bunch more merch after I plugged it for you last week.
I'll have to go and check my email, but if you are my head of marketing, I may fire you. So
that's all right. I'm not a marketing guy. What are you gonna do?
That's fine. No, it's cool. I do this for fun. If people want, like Brandon Fry, who just jumped on, if people want to buy stuff because they like the show, and they want a t-shirt, they need that they have to do some painting in their house, and they're like, oh, I need a shirt to do some painting, or whatever, totally fine. Or you got a white elephant coming up. Christmas is not too far away. I go to Costco, I see Christmas shit everywhere. Hey, you could get that done there. So
I would say if you have to paint, maybe buy 2 shirts. I'm just saying.
One to mop up your brush, and the other one to wear.
Or buy enough to. What do you care? Buy enough to cover your furniture.
Correct. I don't care. You do whatever the fuck you want. You just bought it.
Yeah.
I think that was the first F-bomb of the whole night.
All right, man. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, Justin. Justin Cates at Justin Cates on the Twitter. Epic. All right, Brandon, I see you. Hang on. Kevin's been patiently waiting. We've invited Kevin Davis to speak. Thank you, Kevin. Go ahead and unmute yourself in the lower left-hand corner. Welcome back to the Fighting Irish Faithful show, sir.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
We're happy to have you back on, sir.
No problem. I enjoy Tuesday nights.
That's good. Is it because of the show or just because you like Tuesday?
No, the show.
Oh, awesome. All right. Tweet that out. All right. I'm going to write this down. Kevin likes Tuesday.
He just got done with his first real in-depth game film. He's got his defensive schematic. This is his way of separating and unwinding from it.
Well, he's been coaching America's youth in high school, and they've got a tough game this week, right, Kevin? And so, yeah, and I think we should hey, Fighting Irish Faithful show. We like plugging other shows. I think we had Benny last week. 5 Foot Nothing Pod said he might jump on tonight. I have yet to see him, so he's probably watching the Yankees or something, but. Kevin, you coach America's youth. How's the team doing? Fill us in. Give us the rundown.
Yeah, Chicago Hope Academy. We're 7-0 right now, so we're doing pretty well.
Nice.
Have a tough one this week. Think we should win it. Should be able to pull it out, but we'll see. It's gonna be tight. It's a Catholic school here in the area, so. They're 1-6, but they played. I don't know if you guys ever heard the Chicago Catholic League. It's pretty stout. And this team plays in the Chicago Catholic League, so this 1-6 is really against top tier teams in the state. So we can't look at their record as a blow by.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm more savvy with Indianapolis Catholic schools just because I'm in the Indy area and I'm Catholic, but actually I have a coworker who is a assistant coach at Bishop Chatard. Now that's not the quote unquote local Catholic high school. That would be Roncalli. So what are they? The Royals now? They used to be called the Rebels, and then that got some bad publicity in recent years, so they changed names. But yeah, so go Roncalli. That's the local high school. If Baby Irish Faithful gets to that point and we want to send him there, might be where we send him. So, but anyway, Kevin, so you got a tough game going on. Things looking good, or I imagine you're putting a game plan together to make the boys dominate.
Yeah, so I do a lot of the breakdown, and I'm an analytics, so I put a lot of detail into it. So there's no team that we play that I don't know exactly what they're going to do when they're going to do it, and to some aspect. So I got them down packed. It's just the kids have to be put in the right position to do their job. So
absolutely,
down to.
Exactly. Well, speaking of players doing their jobs, I wanted to say one thing here, and we kind of talked briefly about this with the Wookiee, but I wanted to circle back. Notre Dame's O-line in this BYU game, and just kind of in aggregate on the season, their O-line is actually significantly improved from last year, and maybe that's a product of Heastan being back. Sacks allowed per game, 1.6 sacks per game. National champions, on average, over the last 10 years, average 1.7. So right now we're doing better than the Natty. In this game against BYU, Drew Pine, do you know how many times he was sacked, Kevin?
None, I believe.
None, correct. 0. Gold star to Kevin. Tackles for loss allowed is 4 per game. It's 16th in the country. The Natty, 4.7, 27th in the country. So it's really, really good to see the O-line doing a good job protecting Drew Pine, allowing Drew Pine some time in the pocket. And hey, hashtag RTDB, when you have a quarterback that has time, you have an offensive line that has the ability to move people, exert your will, impose your will, right? Hey, therefore, hashtag RTDB, run the damn ball. Notre Dame's running the ball 59% of the time. That is my preference. But also, hey, we go back to stats of champions. How do they run the ball? National champions run the ball 56% of the time, right? So we're doing a little more than that, and that's probably a byproduct of what we have as far as quarterback and receivers. And look, what's the strength of this team? It's the running backs. We've got Estime, Diggs, Tyree. We do have Price. He's injured. He's recovering, right? But shit, if we had Price, we'd have 4. So, but anyway, back to Kevin.
So you were speaking about the O-line. I just want to stick there for a quick second. I wasn't too happy with the O-line this game, and it's not because they played horrible or anything or they played bad. I felt like with what BYU was giving us as a defense, we weren't exploiting it. So I didn't really see our O linemen getting to the second level. I feel like BYU's linebackers were able to flow and play, and like on those short runs, I feel like we didn't get bodies on on the linebackers well. Now, I don't know if that's the coaching style. I don't know if that's how they want it to be. But I wasn't a fan on how on some of these when they have a 3 front and there's not any pressure, how we only gain 2 yards or 3. Like we should be blowing those type of plays up. Those would be like we should destroy a 3 front, no pressure, running the ball. Like it should work.
Absolutely, we should be hitting minimum 5-6 yards, 7-8. Really.
I think that's because we're not getting bodies on those linebackers at the next level. I don't know why. I mean, I just think maybe it's a blocking scheme where they want to double all the front men and then work their way up. But I don't know. I just think we're not quick at that. I think we could do better. But they play. They're great. I mean, the O-line has been, like you said, they gradually every week they've gotten better. So they're not horrible. I just want to see them take that next step to really solidify themselves as like we're the best O-line group in the nation, and that's getting to that second level.
And I think going against a team like Stanford, I mean, let's face it, they are the weakened calf right now. They are struggling. They're like a fish out of water. They are terrible right now. This is the worst Stanford team I have seen. Like Shaw has had some teams that have struggled over the years. This is awful. And I was going to say this so later, but I think it's appropriate. David Shaw is number 2 on coacheshotseat.com. It's kind of a website I just kind of check every now and then, just kind of see how things are going. And I know nothing about the background of this website. And if you go to coacheshotseat.com, it's very like you can totally tell it's like an older format website. I'll just put it that way. And David Shaw's number 2 on the coach's hot seat, like a flaming chair and whatnot, which is really, really surprising because Shaw has 3 Pac-12 conference championships under his belt. But honestly, it's been a precipitous downhill spiral ever since their Rose Bowl win in 2015. Shaw's number 2 on Coach's Hot Seat. He's behind Jeff Scott at South Florida, which is interesting. Another interesting thing is Brett Venables, per said website, is number 3. Although I think he's fine. He's been there for 1 year and he's got to kind of clean up some shit. But my point is, with Shaw, in 2015, he won the Rose Bowl. He beat Iowa and they finished the year 12-2. They won the Pac-12 championships. Awesome, right? Probably the highlight and the high point of the David Shaw era. Then you have 2016. They win the Sun Bowl. They finish the year 10-3. All right, not so bad. Then 2017, 9-5. They lose the Alamo Bowl. 2018, 9-4. They win the Sun Bowl. Okay, but still 9 wins. 2019, 4-8. 2020, 4-2. Okay, that's the COVID year. 2021, 3-9. And right now they're 1-4. So you've gone from 12 wins to 10 wins to 9-9, 4-4, 3-1. This is a complete straight down. It's not good. I was tempted to graph this to see what this looks like. Like is it like sloping, like asymptotically going down, or is it like leveling off? Like I didn't do that because that's a very engineering thing. But like Kevin, is Shaw in trouble? You're a coach. What's your opinion?
Oh, it's for sure. So I always see coaches in this way. So when a coach first starts off, they have 4 years to see progression, right? But when you've been there, you have longevity. If you see this much of a decrease or a decline is to this extent, you have to be on the hot seat because your recruiting sucks. Your recruiting is not anywhere, and that's part of the problem. You're not winning games. Other teams
Well,
around you.
their recruiting is not terrible. If I may jump in here real quick, and I'll throw it back to you, is their recruiting is not terrible. Shit, I looked this up. Where is it? I can't find it. Okay, they're 25th over the last 4 years. They're not too far behind North Carolina at 17, but top 25 on average in recruiting. Like that doesn't suck. A smart school place like Stanford with very, very high academic, standards and arguably higher standards than Notre Dame. But top 25 and you're 1-4, like
what does that compare to USC, UCLA?
Well, it's probably not better than USC. I will
Right.
say that with great confidence. But I will also say this, like if we go to Stanford, look, they lost to USC. Okay, fine. They lost to Oregon. Okay, fine. But Oregon State and Washington, there's no way they have better talent than Oregon State. And granted, they lost to Oregon State by 1 point. Okay. But they lost at home. Okay. And they lost at Washington, but they got pistol whipped by Washington 40-22.
But I think that also goes to, like we talked about, I think, end of last year, just kind of discussing the situation of the Big Ten versus the situation of the Pac-12. How is Michigan going to be versus SC? And ultimately, I thought that the Pac-12 was going to be a little bit weaker because of how the COVID year affected the Pac-12. And as a result, I think the recruiting left. You saw the transfer portal just flood with Pac-12 players.
Yep.
And everyone kind of jumped off that ship. I think somebody like SC, somebody like UCLA, they were able to reboot and recharge. Whereas I think Stanford, that's a huge loss. Yeah, they may have an average of their recruitment class, but how much of that recruitment class is still there is another question. So yeah, they can have that recruiting class and be ranked 25th in the top 25, but how many are still there? How many are still in that program? They probably all jumped ship and headed out. So that stat may be a little bit misleading. The other side of it is the Pac-12 has gotten stronger when you look at it because, yeah, there's SC. Yeah, UCLA is coming on, but Oregon has always been strong. Washington and Washington State are hit and miss, but have been recently pretty good.
Go Cougs.
And then you add
Go Cougs.
out of nowhere. It really has developed in a very silent way that East Coast bias that does exist. The West Coast hasn't seen, but I think Stanford just hasn't recouped like the other schools have.
And also with Shaw, though, he might be out at Stanford, but he's not going to be out of a job. I think he'll find another place pretty quickly. I think he's a good coach. I think it's just the situation is what it is. Something's not working over there, and maybe it's his time to be out, but I think he'll find another gig somewhere. I don't think he'll be out too long.
And something, and this is not to be a criticism of David Shaw, right? Because David Shaw has a pretty decent record. He has a 65% winning percentage, but over a span of 5 years, where your wins are just sloping down, that ain't good. And I kind of wonder if some of his success in the early years, and this is kind of pretty typical of coaches in college football, where you get a new coach in there, you get kind of a shot in the arm with the team, and they're very successful early on. But since 2015, it's been a downhill slide. And I kind of wonder, is that a byproduct of, Harbaugh? Because Harbaugh at Michigan, he was at Stanford, then he goes to the 49ers, and he goes to the team up north, right? Is some of the early success of Shaw attributed and some of the recruiting and some of the elements, their footprints, fingerprints, however you want to describe it.
The residue of Harbaugh.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
is it Harbaugh? And if you take a present day approach to David Shaw, it makes you scratch your head and you're like, well, wait a minute, let's look at when David Shaw was successful at Stanford. Go look at David Shaw. People, we're not going to talk about this tonight. People on the podcast, we'll plant this seed, and people may, when they're bored at work or on lunch or whatever, like don't rob time from your employer. But you're on the couch, and it's commercial break or whatever, and you're scrolling on Twitter. Take a break, go do the research, go look at what Shaw, look at how he was successful in the early years. How many years after Shaw left or after Harbaugh left, and then look at it now, and it's not good. It's actually really bad. And like, I'm not a fan of Stanford. I really don't. I'm kind of agnostic to them as a school and as a team. I mean, it's a smart school, so I give them their propers that they deserve from an academic standpoint. But other than that, from football, I'm just like, don't really care. And I just hope we beat them.
Oh, we will. I'm taking the over on the 17 points.
Nice. Not alone.
I'm with you guys in spirit. I don't know if mentally, like, looking at Notre Dame and Cal, North Carolina, and BYU, like, and maybe Stanford's just that bad that we can cover a 17-point spread. I just don't know if this team is developed enough to do that. I don't know if with all the like go back to 2012. I know this is like 10 years ago, but in 2012, Notre Dame on paper performed better on the road as far as like points or scoring margin, however you wanted to dissect it. They did better on the road than they did at home. And I kind of wonder, and this is not a criticism of Notre Dame as a home environment, but some of the like obligations, quote unquote, that Notre Dame has at home. I mean, look, we have one win at home, and that was against Cal, right? The other home game was Marshall, right? And maybe it took two, quote unquote, away games away from South Bend for Notre Dame to kind of get their head screwed on straight. And now, look out, Cardinal. We're coming in with a chainsaw. We're going to chop that fucking tree down. I'm cool with that. I haven't seen the evidence right now on paper that tells me Notre Dame is going to cover a 17-point spread. Like, our margin of victory are 7, 13, and 8. And this team has top 25 talent. They're struggling. And if you think David Shaw is going to go into South Bend, a place he's played many times, and he's been in the skinny tunnel and the shitty locker room and whatever, if you think Shaw is not going to prepare Stanford for Notre Dame Stadium to say, this is what you're getting into, boys, we got to turn our season around. This is a nice team to play against that's on the up and up, and we are taking a break from our conference, scenario. Because like Stanford right now is playing for a bowl game, right? If they can go into Notre Dame Stadium and eke out a win potentially, man, it's a huge shot in the arm for them against their next opponent, Arizona State, right? So I'm not rooting for Stanford. I hope they die a terrible death, and I hate their fucking tree and their stupid band. But I don't think that Shaw is a shitty coach and is just going to roll over and allow Notre Dame to cover a 17-point spread.
So this is how this is how I see it, but I don't know if I should see it this way. So I asked myself, could we have beaten UNC by more? Yes. Could we have beaten BYU by more? Yes. Can either of those teams mop the floor with Stanford? Yes. We are due, and I believe we're getting progressively better every week.
I agree.
We are due for a game to where we say, this is Notre Dame football. We haven't had that game yet. We are due for a statement game to say, this is what we're going to be about. This is what the future of this team is going to look like. And we have to do it against a rival like Stanford.
That statement. Absolutely.
Best time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Stanford is primed to be the Washington Generals of our, globe. If we can put that full game together, every facet, all three parts of the game, special teams, offense, and defense, and go out and put on a clinic, they literally could be our Washington Generals that we just mop the floor with.
I definitely think we need this statement game. I mean, last week's game was great. I mean, beating UNC was great. Right? Those wins were great. But they weren't statement wins. Those were just, okay, we won. We should have won by more. We didn't play great games, but there's potential there. We need that game where it's total, utter dominance. And I think we've seen pieces come together over these last couple of weeks. I think the pieces are going to show up completely against Stanford.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll be happy if Notre Dame beats Stanford by over 17 points. If Notre Dame really wants to impress the voters, they need to have a scoring margin, sniffing the 20s of what national champions do. The scoring margin of national champions on average is 27. So yeah, I'm not saying that Notre Dame needs to score 27 plus points over Stanford and have that said scoring margin, but
yeah,
like Stanford is really down, and like good teams, beat up on shitty teams when they come to their house, right? Let's not, I don't want to say lay an egg, but let's play good football. Let's remind Stanford that they're a visitor in Notre Dame Stadium, okay? And it's a night game, which is kind of funny because Stanford's so bad right now.
What we've missed is that go for the jugular mentality. Is you have the opening and you take it, and you take you mentioned and referred to it earlier, is take their heart out of it, take their fight out of it. And we've got to see those moments. We had it in North Carolina. We had it, in Vegas, where we had the opportunity to go for the jugular. And both times we didn't seize that moment and just take the game away from them. That's what we need in this game. And that's what I think Kevin is referring to as a statement game of seeing that opening, taking that, just go in for the kill early mentality and take their fight, take their heart out of it, and go for the jugular. That jugular moment, that statement game, that's honestly what Stanford can be, but it is literally a matter of taking those pieces and putting it together so it is a full, complete game on all three facets of the team.
Absolutely.
We're literally better than every position than Stanford, I think. Maybe not receiver. Let me change that. Receiver, we're not better, but every other area, we're better. So,
agreed.
Yeah, there's not too many stats that Stanford is better than Notre Dame. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. We're going to jump over to Brandon. He's probably going to close us out for the night here on the Fighting Irish Faithful show at Davis0560 on the Twitter. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us. Go Irish.
And good luck this weekend.
Absolutely. Give them hell.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, we've invited Brandon Fry to speak here and shut us down, close us down here on the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Brandon, if you wish to join us, please help us close down the podcast before we go into the Stanford game. And let's get Marcus Freeman above 500 as a coach for Notre Dame. We've mentioned that Stanford is 25th ranked in talent. And this is a good thing for Notre Dame. It's really good that Notre Dame has, like, on paper, what's the tagline of this show? Scotch and spreadsheets. Tonight we're doing a Debreif. It's the really big bottle from Costco. And if we look at Stanford as a team, yes, their coach is pretty decent in aggregate, but last year, look, and forget last year, go to this year. They're 0-4 against Power 5 teams. This is not good, right? Their best stat is red zone touchdowns. Okay, so if we can keep them out of the red zone, okay, I have no qualms that we will win. There's very few stats, and this is one of the first few weeks where Notre Dame, like if I just, compare columns here on the spreadsheet, that Notre Dame is better than their opponent consistently. This is the first week that's ever happened. So I feel really good about that. And it looks like Brandon jumped off. That's fine. He's got to get early for work. But we'll open it up here to my co-host Red Snapper here. With Stanford, the things that concern me are kind of these macro stats. And Red Snapper, Stanford has a yards per point of 13.8 versus Notre Dame's 15.4. A rushing attempts per touchdown of 24.3 versus Notre Dame's 29.1. A passing attempts per touchdown of 13.6 versus Notre Dame's 15.7. I know I threw a lot of numbers at our audience there. But consistently, what's to take away is Stanford is better than Notre Dame in the efficiency of their offense. In all, passing and rushing, they're better than Notre Dame. Red Snapper, what's your take on that?
Well, efficiency is one thing, but again, it's the ultimate column is the win column, and it's kind of apples to oranges. If you want to look at it of our efficiency, yeah, right now I think that is our problem. That's why we aren't, blowing teams out, and our margin of victory has been so small, is we are very inefficient. And that, I think, is what Kevin was speaking toward, is having that complete game. Like I said, that jugular moment, you can only do that when you're efficient. So yeah, the offense may not be as efficient, but it is getting the job done. I think ultimately it's kind of a hollow stat in the sense of, yeah, if you're efficient, the logic speaks that you would win the game if you're more efficient than your opponent. True. But clearly, compared to their opponent, Stanford was not. And again, do you think Stanford's offense is going to be efficient against our defense? BYU, great example. We basically took all of their offensive stats and cut them in half. So how efficient is Stanford against a team we haven't played? Again, it's apples to oranges. The efficiency is going to be dictated by when the Cardinal meet the Irish. Are they going to be as efficient against our defense on an offensive standpoint? Justin Case brought up a great point. The receivers, that is going to be a cause for concern. They're tall, big receivers. That probably is one of the positions, the only position really, like Kevin said, that they exceed us talent-wise and with experience. And I think that's going to be a great test for our secondary. But are those pieces there? Is Golden's defense going to show the next step of improvement with the linebackers communicating better, with, not missing those safety blitzes and us getting burned? I don't want those safety blitzes to stop. I think they just need to be disguised better. I think they need to be timed a little bit better. And that's all going to be practice, repetition. I don't think we're disguising it well enough. I think they're catching it. I think they're making the necessary changes to burn us on them. And again, very young, very green defense, especially in our secondary. So ultimately, do we have the efficiency to keep progressing like we've seen the last couple games? And again, can we seize those moments when they come up? We've had the last 2 games. We've missed it both times. Can we do it this game?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things to unpack there, but if I jump to that last piece there about does Notre Dame have the ability to step on the throat? Do we have the ability to drive home and tell an opponent, no, this is our house, get the fuck out, right? Like seriously, that is the mentality that we need in this game. This team is weak. This team is struggling, and they need to be reminded of where they are, and where we are. And that's not to be unkind or whatever. Look, it's sports, it's football, it's a violent sport. Step on the throat, beat the shit out of the Cardinal, and have no remorse. That's really what it comes down to.
No, if I'm in the coaching staff all week this week, I'm preaching we protect our home. Whose home is this? This is our home. I am absolutely rally cry after being gone for 2 weeks to be back home and play again. Let's really give the home crowd, the home field advantage. I want to hear that stadium rocking, and the only way it rocks is we protect our house. So no big plays. Let's cut down. Let's go for the blank. I would be throwing those goals out like it may be impossible, but I'm still throwing it out there. Why? Because that is the perfection goal of we're blanking them. We're gonna hold them scoreless. And I would love to see that challenge issued this week. Not let's beat them. It's let's beat them soundly. Let's beat them completely. Let's demoralize them. The standard of excellence that we expect as fans, that we preach about on this podcast, the level of excellence is not letting them score at all. If they're a weaker team, then we shouldn't allow them to score.
Yeah.
And so the imposition of will, we want to impose our will on them. We want to establish our dominance at home on them. We want to take them for the ragdoll that they are and just toss them around the field. And that should be obvious in every facet of the game. Every offensive line should be beating the guy across from him. Defensive line the same way, getting into the backfield. We need to see increases in our tackles for loss. We should have at least 4 sacks. We should have at least 2 picks. As an offense, I want to see over 200 yards rushing, 200 yards passing.
Nice.
I want to see at least 1 running touchdown for 20 or more yards. Like, I would be throwing out these benchmark wish list goals for all members of the team at every facet.
This isn't playing dirty, but this is imposing your will. This is reminding your opponent who they are. And if the impressions are crude and mean or something like this.
Grab his dick and twist it! Oh my god, dude, this is an MMA fight, dude. You twist that dick! Twist his dick! Twist his dick! Oh my god. Oh, dick twist!
But seriously, Notre Dame needs to exert their will against an opponent who's down and totally just kick their ass. Like Stanford is not good right now. We mentioned Coach's hot seat before. They're not doing well. Another team and another person who's not doing well, or at least this past weekend who didn't do well, was LSU. Wah, 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 wah. Brian Kelly, this is a tradition on the show now this season. Okay? We're going to do some Brian Kelly bashing, which I'm going to get some shit for, but that's fine. We'll circle around to that. Brian Kelly lost at home 13-40 against Tennessee. And that stadium was empty midway through the fourth quarter, right? And wow, how embarrassing. And look, I've gotten some flack per se on Twitter about this, about, let it go, and just look, he's not our coach anymore, and da-da-da-da. And it's like, look, hold the phone, back the bus up. I've been critical of BK ever since 2016. Go back to the first season I ever podcasted, which was 2020. And in the fifth show I ever did, I laid out everything that could have been critical of BK. And then I kind of walked it back and said, well, he does some of these other good things, so that's good too. But here's the point. Just because you're there for a long amount of time and you end up aggregating a bunch of wins, that doesn't mean you're a good coach. 0 New Year's 6 wins, 0 playoff wins, 0 games that fucking matter, except for maybe Oklahoma in 2012, right? There's a few home games in there, like, Clemson and USC. Fine. But I have been critical of BK ever since that shit show of 2016. And it's not so much that like his inadequacies when he was our head coach. One of the things that really cements this, and why I will continue to harp on this, is the way he left Notre Dame. Go back to the show, the live show that Red Snapper and I did. It was basically a phone conversation. But we looked at BK and how he left, and how it was like a surprise per se, and it was kind of sleazy, and he gets the team up at 7 a.m. for a meeting on a Tuesday or whatever the fuck it was. Look, the point is, the BK should have coached a bowl game and then said, hey, after this, I'm gone. And then peace be with you. Like, that's it. And no, it didn't come out that way. What's the phrase? Loose lips sink ships, or something like that. Yeah. That's kind of what happened with BK. And so for anyone on Twitter, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, so I don't want to be, rude to anyone, but people who tell me to let it go, I'm like, no, this guy was the head coach of our football team for 12 fucking seasons, and what do we have to show for it?
No, I agree.
What do we have to show for it?
To me, at the end of the day, if you're all about Notre Dame, you're as much about how you leave as when you're currently there. And I anytime I see BK and the whole mentality of how he is, the biggest thing that always sticks in my mind is a soundbite from, I think it was Herm Edwards from years ago. I think he was the Jets coach at the time. But it's, you play to win the game. And the game, I always interpret as the New Year's Six Bowl, the championship, a team in the top 10, top 25. The big games that BK never seemed to be able to win. You play to win the game. The game you're supposed to win. You're supposed to win the championship. You're supposed to win your conference if you're in one. You're supposed to win, all of those big
New Year's
games.
6, right?
Those are those games that BK never had. And to me, I could never wrap my mind
and it wasn't even so much like the opposite, where it's like, oh, it was so close and it was a nail biter, like Auburn, Florida State 13-14 time frame. Like, that's one of the best college football games I've ever watched. Like, that's not what happened with BK, where it's it's so close. Like, there was a couple of like that, Clemson 2015, what's the other one? Florida State 2014, right? There was a couple close games where it kind of came down to the end, but those are the exception, not the norm. And these other games, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, pick your New Year's Six bowl. Notre Dame was getting blown the fuck out. It wasn't even close. We didn't deserve to be on the field. And that's on Kelly.
The way he left, basically it was like dropping a deuce sign because he didn't care about Notre Dame. And I was constantly racking my brain about how do you leave a program that you built and you're proud of, and you have all this business mentality that he did, and he really did a great job for the university with building up the infrastructure.
Oh, no doubt. And I don't want to be like unfair to BK, but he took the program for a place that was starving for some sort of success. It's like we're just lucky to have a warm bowl of soup with Charlie Weiss, and finally with Brian Kelly, it's like, hey, we're going out to Rocco's or people on the West Coast who know about Shakey's. We're going to Shakey's and we're getting pizza. And it's like, well, hold the fucking phone here. All right. Under Lou Holtz and under these other great coaches, we were even steaks and caviar. And now we're just satisfied with pizza. And no, that's not where we're at. And that's not the standard of excellence that is Notre Dame. And I love pizza. All right. And now I want to go cook one up right now at 11:20 at night. But my point is this: with BK and the people who are critical of us or who are critical of my Brian Kelly bashing and telling me to let it go, I'm not going to let it go, because this guy was here for so many years. And it's not so much what he did or didn't do while he was at Notre Dame. It's how he left Notre Dame. In my opinion, you're at a program for 12 years. You owe it to me, man. You owe it to the school. You owe it to the institution. Walk out with dignity and respect. Coach your bowl game. Finish the season. And if you want to go to the SEC for your career, I actually am not going to be critical of you. I mean, I won't be great.
Honestly, with BK, I get feelings like I was the spouse in a 12-year marriage that all of a sudden got cheated on and he ran off with the girlfriend. That's how I feel.
It's like, oh, who's this young hot chick? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And what did I have? Like, I have,
what? I was cooking you dinner, I made your bed, I folded your laundry. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, we've gotten off topic here. Jam, if you want to close us down, you've jumped on here. Happy to invite you on, always in at any point. Jam at JAM Eco 703 if you wish to join us tonight. If not, that's cool. We're going to wind it down. It's pretty late. It's almost 11:30 at night on a Tuesday.
No. I'll make it quick, and I couldn't agree more with you folks. And I think a testament to his character and how he left. And when you think about how Swarbrick stood in front of him following the tragic death of Declan Sullivan, when Swarbrick stood in front of him in those two horrific seasons that most coaches would not survive, and he ghosts them when he's out recruiting, I mean, that just speaks to who he is as a person. And not a Swarbrick fan, but you'd have thought if he owed anybody anything, it would have been to Swarbrick from a loyalty standpoint. And I couldn't agree with either of you more. Like, I don't begrudge him for leaving, but there's a way to do it. And it pains me extensively that he's the winningest coach in Notre Dame history.
I mean, that's a product of just the length of time he's been there. Like, I don't really give two shits about that. Like, I went back, and anyone who's new to this show or who has not extensively listened to us since 2020, I encourage everyone to go back to episode 5, the 5th episode I ever did. I always go back to this because I spent so much time over the years poring over data, and I compared BK to the greats, Rockne, Leahy, all that. He doesn't even sniff Dan Devine levels. No. And because Dan Devine had a 75% win percentage and had bowl wins and had a title, right? Like, I break it all down there. And Brian Kelly just never went and did that. And
no, that's 100% right. There's two types of coaches at Notre Dame: those who have won a championship and those who haven't. Like that's the litmus test.
Well, and it's a little different. Like take Faust, right? Faust, not great at Notre Dame, but he kind of left the program with some dignity, right? Like we don't hate him, we don't dislike him. Like, okay, maybe you're playing above the rim or you're out of your league, whatever it is. And I can say that because I'm running a podcast. I'm not a head coach, right? So I'm not gonna pretend to know more than what I do here on Excel. My
he
point is,
genuinely loved this school. Like there was an appreciation for the school and a respect and an admiration that Faust had. And
you don't have
Faust
to be an ass kisser, right? Like I'm a results oriented person as well. But it's like, look, have some self-respect about look, okay, I'm going to finish this out this term and leave early. It's kind of the same criticism I give for some of the guys who leave early or don't play the bowl game. And it's like, you're just saving yourself for, the NFL. And it's like from a business decision, I agree with you 100%, but it's like, wait a second, you got to that position because of this time you put into this institution. And now you're going to push that aside because they basically gave you this opportunity to shine and this opportunity to be in the NFL. And you're not going to play in the fucking bowl game that helps us win and get a New Year's Six win that we haven't had since, 1994. And maybe these guys don't know that, or they don't give two shits about that, or they're too selfish, or they're just more interested in, getting the NFL money. And from a business standpoint, I totally get it. I agree with it. But as a Notre Dame fan who's running this podcast, who wants our team to be the best in all of college football and all of the land, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with players who leave early. I read some bullshit tweet. I don't know who it was. Someone said that Mayer should just stop playing the rest of the season. Fuck that guy, whoever said that, okay? The way Kelly left at the end of the season, or last year, no, you're a piece of trash. And I knew this in 2016 in the NC State game when we played in a hurricane and we played like garbage and you were a shitty coach that game. I was like, no, fire him after that game. It didn't happen, so I was wrong. Or, Swarbrick's not that courageous or bold, however you want to put it. But anyway, okay, I've been rambling. Jam, why don't you close us down? Let's bring it back down.
No, you look at what a reptile Urban Meyer is, and he still finished the race at Utah.
Sakes. Why is he still on Fox?
No, but he still
get him
finished
off
the
my
race
TV.
At Utah before he went to Florida. As much of a scum as he is, he didn't leave that team. That tells you the depths to which Kelly went. But no, it's a exciting time and a lot of momentum. It was good to see the character of the team, I think, forged in that fourth quarter when I think all of us were holding our breath, because that was I do think that was a pivotal time in Freeman's career, and it tilted the right way. So hopefully they could build on that.
Where do you sit on the point spread then? How do you think the team's going to do this week against Stanford?
I think they're going to beat the spread.
Nice. Yeah.
I hope you guys are right. I really hope you're right. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just I just don't see it. And I'm the first to admit when I'm wrong. I'm first to admit when I don't know something. And I'm the first to admit when I need help. And right now, the numbers, and if I'm going to be true to my mantra of this show, I just don't see it. I think Notre Dame wins. I do think we win by double digits. I just don't think we cover the spread. I'm just going to throw that out. Just because I think of how much more... I personally am a little more reticent to how successful we're going to be in this game. And yes, Stanford is down. They're not very good, but they have 25th ranked talent. Shaw's not a shitty coach. I do think they're at a crossroads as a program, and him personally, and going to Notre Dame. And hey, maybe all Stanford needs is to get out of town. Now, I don't think they're good enough to beat Notre Dame, but I don't know if Stanford's, focus and Notre Dame's abilities, if Notre Dame's able to cover the spread. That's just my opinion. So I'm going to say Notre Dame wins between 12 and 14 points.
They'd have been tied with USC at halftime. They turned the ball over multiple times inside going into score. So yeah. I do think it's critical that we force some turnovers. If we eliminate Smith
and I mentioned that earlier in the show that Stanford is the worst team in all of college football in turnovers for the season. They are minus 11 in 5 games. They're terrible. They are the worst dead last in turnovers, minus 11 for the season. So good for Notre Dame. Hopefully, Stanford fucks up and.
I want Stanford's best, and I still think we're going to cover the spread. I think we really are going to put a full, complete game together. I think the pieces are going to fall in. I think the momentum, I think being back at home after, some time away, I think it's going to be as much, kind of a calming remedy for us. But I want Stanford's best, and I still want them off the floor from them.
Indeed. All right, men, we are over 2 hours into this show. This is, I was not expecting a show on a Tuesday night going to a Stanford team to be, going this late. So, Jam, we'll throw it back to you. Last thoughts here before we shut this down.
Chop the trees, baby. Let's go Irish.
Chop the trees. Go Irish. So are we talking like a steel, chainsaw or
No, you want to chop the wood. Let's go with the Shiano. Keep chopping.
Nice.
There you go. Nice.
I'd want like the 12-foot solid metal 2-person either side rowing bandsaw.
So you're talking about teamwork.
Absolutely.
I will tell you, you got to check out Holtz's Heroes Twitter account. I posted the Zorge picture with the stand. It's like my favorite picture of all time. Boo Williams is coming over. Zorge is on one knee, and the Stanford quarterback looks like he's dead. It's an amazing photo.
I love it.
All right, God, appreciate you.
Well,
have a great night.
6'4", 235 pounds, I'm guessing here, from the University of Notre Dame, at JAMEKO703 on the Twitter. Jamiko Jam! Thank you for joining us on the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Thank you, sir. Red Snapper, is Notre Dame at a crossroads? Do we kind of squander this game, or do we just beat the shit out of Stanford?
No, I think this is a homecoming game. I think it's a full home. This is our homecoming. Let's blow this.
I love it. I love that. Yes, Notre Dame's homecoming. Maybe we should rename this podcast Notre Dame's Homecoming versus Stanford. All right, we're gonna do that. ND Nation, Twitter, everyone. ND, thank you, Red Snapper. See, this is why I need a home co-host. ND's homecoming. Is homecoming one word?
Yes, it is.
I think it is. Homecoming versus Stanford. Brilliant. All right, that's gonna be the title for the show going forward. As we ride out with some Bulls, Chicago Bulls, we're reliving, the aura of 1996 here. Red Snapper, you clear predicting a win?
I'm going to say a 22-point win.
What the fuck? 22 points?
22 points.
And you're sober. I'm the one who's drinking here. I don't know if that happens. I'm going to say Notre Dame wins by 13. Here, what do you want? What do you want? Like a buck here on this? What do you want? I'll bet you. That's fine.
We'll figure it out.
Figure it out. All right. I would bet you like Fighting Irish Faithful gear, but you already do that, so it's fine. All right. Red Snapper says Notre Dame's going to win by 22 points. I say Notre Dame's going to win by 13, not cover the spread, but still be convincingly victorious. So, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. This is way longer than I thought it was going to go. 2 hours after the Shamrock Series, going into Stanford, kind of a shitty team, but a lot to talk about, and that is to you, our audience. People like Jam, people like Kevin, people like the Wookiee, everyone who joined us. Adam Dowling giving us the debrief from Vegas. We really appreciate that. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight on the Fighting Irish Faithful Show. Volume 67 of Season 3, Episode 15. Thank you so much. Go Irish, beat Cardinal.
Go Irish!